engines. This is the Women's Motorsports Network. From dirt track nights to the bright race lights, from the garage to victory lane. Women are rising, chasing the dream with horsepower running through their veins. Women's Motorsports Network. Hear those engines roar. Stories of courage, speed, and heart, like you've never heard before. Fuel her future, fuel her dreams. Every lap we celebrate. Women's Motorsports Network. Let's hit the track. Let's hit the track. Women's Motorsports Network. Connecting and celebrating women in motorsports. One story at a time.
This episode is sponsored by Snyder's Lawn Care and Property Maintenance in Kalamazoo, Michigan. If storms leave branches, debris, or damage in your yard, including downed trees, their team offers reliable storm damage cleanup services. Reach out to Bob or Andrew at 269-775-1275, or their website is snyderslawncare.com. That's 269-775-1275. Have you recently hit a pothole? Did you end up with a bent wheel? The tire shop's going to try to sell you a new one, but you don't need to drop hundreds of dollars. Call Mark at A Cut Above Welding in Kalamazoo. He'll repair the wheel, sand it, paint it, and have it looking like new for a fraction of the cost. With over 50 years of welding and fabricating experience, A Cut Above Welding gets it done right and fast. Call Mark at 269-760-1109. That's 269-760-1109. A Cut Above Welding. No job too small, just big results. Hello, everyone. This is Melinda Russell with the Women's Motorsports Network podcast. And my guest today is Kelly Coss. And Kelly, I want to welcome you to the show. And would you start by sharing a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Kelly Coss. Thank you for having me. I'm 20 years old. I drive an A-Class micro sprint. I am married to my wonderful husband, who also happens to be in racing. I love racing. It's definitely one of my passions, and I'm so happy to be here to share a little bit about myself.
And Kelly, do you have any pets or anything like that you have to take care of?
Yeah, I have two wonderful dogs. I have an Australian Shepherd who is 6 months old, so he's very energetic and definitely keeps us on our toes. And I have a 3-year-old Great Pyrenees.
Okay, so bigger dogs.
Yes, yep, and they love coming to the racetrack. That's definitely one of their favorites.
Oh, do they? Because some dogs don't like all that noise.
Yes, ours love it. They love seeing all the people and all the other dogs that are there. Absolutely love it. And we love having them. It's like our, pit crew.
Right, exactly. Now, if you could just teach them to change a tire,
right?
You'd be in good shape.
Yes, if we had those extra, paws or hands in hot pit, that would be wonderful.
Isn't that the truth? Well, if you learn how to do that, you'll be famous and you'll be rich.
Oh yes.
So there you go.
Yes. Hopefully one day, maybe.
My dog, I have a little Shih Tzu, and he wants to drink out of my cup.
Oh, yep.
And so I told my husband if I could just teach him how to drink out of a straw.
Right.
But that's not going to happen either. So,
well, if you figure that one out, let me know.
Right, exactly. So Kelly, tell me, how did you get interested in motorsports?
Yeah, so I, as a little girl, 3, 4, my dad actually raced snowmobiles. So I would go along with him and watch his racing. And it was so fun to me, playing the snowbanks and on the ice and everything. And I've always had a passion for going fast and turning left, apparently. And my dad brought me to dirt track racing, and I absolutely loved it my first time. And we have a local track, Red Cedar Speedway, right by me. So every Friday night we would go there and we'd watch, late models, modifieds, street stocks, super stocks, all of that. And I finally, I want to go every Friday, and I kept asking to go. And I was this huge fan of racing. I had to get all the racing t-shirts and all of the hero cards. And, I got my license. I started going even more, I could drive myself. And I always wanted to be in racing. My biggest dream was to be a race car driver, whether it was a Hornet or super stock, late model, modified, I wanted to be in it. I wanted to be driving it, and that was my dream. Obviously it wasn't really in the budget at the time, and I didn't really have any of those connections, as racing is very expensive, as I'm sure you know. And so I, was just everyone's biggest fan. I loved it. I would go, I'd talk to all of them, I'd get pictures. Sammy Mars, he's from Menominee, Wisconsin. He was super good. He stood out to me because he's just local, and I'd always get a picture. And, our family also knows him. So that helped a lot, to build those connections. And I was on Snapchat one day, and I had gained a boyfriend at the time who is now my husband, and I didn't know he raced, but turns out that he raced micro sprints at the time at Thunder Hill Speedway. So he had asked me one Wednesday night to come to his race, and I went there, and I actually fell in love with it. I had never been to Thunder Hill Speedway before, and I had never, watched any karts or micro sprints before that. So I did not know what I was getting myself into at the time. But then, we started talking more and more, and his dream was always to be a sprint car driver. He wanted to be a full size, sprint car, all of it. And so we were about, 7 months into our relationship, and, I said, why don't you, follow your dream and go get a sprint car? So we picked up a older sprint car. We started building it from the ground up, motor and all of that. And so he then had an extra micro sprint, and he goes, why don't you hop in it and drive it? So they have a little home track at his parents'. It's an 8th mile that we can go out and practice on. So I jumped in his micro sprint, and I actually fell in love with it. Looking back at the videos now, I was going very slow, and I definitely didn't know what I was doing, but it was my car for a year. I drove that for a year, and I decided I wanted to keep racing. So we went and got a new micro sprint, which is what I have now. So every last year it was Wednesday nights at Thunder Hill. I would race there in the micro sprint, and then this year it's Thursday nights now. So I'll be there basically every Thursday night racing my A-class micro sprint. And he now has a full-size sprint car still, and we actually made an LLC, K&K Racing. We decided that we wanted to become our own team, and so we started that probably 3 years ago, right around the time that we both started full-time racing. And it was really fun, to have our own, K&K Racing, and, have an LLC like that, and, kind of just do our own thing, and, post on our social medias. We act like we're in the world of outlaws. That's his dream, is he wants to be in the world of outlaws. So we try to, be on that professional level and make sure that, we can get there hopefully someday. So we just keep trucking along and, keep racing. And we actually gained his sister on our team this year. So we have 2 sprint cars and 1 micro sprint. So that's gonna be really fun. It's definitely challenging having 3 cars in the shop now, but thankfully, we have a heated shop and makes it much easier to work on them when it's cold. But so I think it'll be a really fun year, and I'm really looking forward to it. But it really shows, like, follow your dream. Like, I never ever thought that I would be an actual race car driver. I always thought I would just be one of the biggest fans. And it turns out now I'm a driver, and I'm also still a big fan of racing. And it really, I love going to Thunder Hill because it really brings out, like, the inner child in me, it feels like. And I love seeing, all the little kids looking up to me because, I'm a race car driver. I want to be her someday. And, it really shows that you don't have to start out in karts when you're a little kid. My husband started out racing when he was 7 years old. So he definitely has a lot of experience. And I just started out at 18 years old in a micro sprint. So I didn't have any of that, driving experience before, but it really shows that even if you don't have the driving experience, or, you're younger, older, you can still get in it. You can still follow your dreams and race, which is really cool because there's a lot of older people driving micro sprints. I race with 60-year-olds, 50-year-olds, people my age, 20-year-olds, but I also race with like 13-year-olds. So, micro sprints really have a variety, which is super cool to see. So, yeah.
Wow, that's a great story. And what I love, Kelly, is that you didn't start when you were 7, because a lot of people think, well, if you don't start when you're young and, you wait till you're 18 or 20,
Right.
it's too late.
Right.
But it's not too late.
It's not too
And
late at all.
no. And get out there and have some fun,
Right.
you know. Yeah, absolutely. I
I
love
mean,
that
it's
story.
definitely, a benefit if you're starting younger, having that karting experience, but it's still never too late. You can gain that experience, and racing family is huge. I mean, no matter what age you start, there's always people to help you out in the pits, people to talk to. So that's really cool too, because racing, we've definitely gained a family, and, we obviously could not do it without them. They're our biggest supporters. We support them. So we know, even with my husband, racing for 18 years, he still needs help sometimes. He still has questions. So starting really young is a benefit, but it's really not gonna, it's not a big deal if you don't start young.
No, and it's not something that blocks you from being a race car driver for sure.
Exactly. You can still be as good as a World of Outlaws driver, NASCAR driver. If you want it to happen, you can make it happen, and just
Yeah.
follow it. It's a big follow your dreams and, take that stride. You got to take that step and bite the bullet and just jump in it and do it. That's what I did. And I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't have it any other way.
I have a friend that lives in Menominee.
Okay.
Isn't that funny? And for the longest time, we always made fun of him. Didn't make fun of him, but we always like slaughtered the name of the town.
Yep.
Menominee, all these things.
Yep.
And so now I know how to say it. And
Right. That's really funny that you say that, because I think still to this day, when I type out Menominee, I say me no money. So, and just to help me spell it out and make sure I spell it right. So I think that's
yeah,
really cool that you bring that up, because I know a lot of people do that.
yeah, that's funny. Me no money. I had never thought of that, but I'm going to remember that for sure.
Yes. Yep.
That's funny. So, you know, racing was in your blood somehow.
Yes.
Just from your dad taking you to the track, and then you got a chance now to be, involved and race and everything. So what's something that was the hardest thing for you to learn when you first started driving?
I really think all of it was hard. I mean, when you're watching from the stands, some people, think it's super easy. It's definitely not easy at all. And I think the hardest part for me was confidence. All of the drivers that I'm racing with have so much experience, and there's a lot of good drivers that they're very good, like extremely good, and they have a lot of potential. So being out there in my first race, I was in the back of the pack, like I was going, turtle mode, and it was definitely confidence. I would get off the track, and my husband, you did a good job. He would tell me, always, what can I do better, what I did really good on, what I improved on. We always have these personal goals, but no matter what, and still to this day, confidence is a struggle. You see a lot of these other drivers that are winning all the time and making moves and throwing sliders, and it's really hard to accomplish that. That's definitely a skill that's really hard to do. I mean, I'm not like extremely good. I'm not World of Outlaws good right now. I would say I'm always improving. And I feel like that's definitely something that every racer would say is, I'm not good, I'm improving, because every year, every race you're going to improve on something. So this year, our main goal is confidence and have fun. We go to the racetrack, and as long as we have fun, we had a good night. And no matter if our car is in pieces or if we're in victory lane, as long as we had fun, that's what matters. And that really helps make your nights easier and gain friendships, because if you're just down on yourself all the time, it's not going to be any fun and you can't improve. So really just working on that confidence and realizing that I was still new to this, and so I'm not going to be as good as them. I don't have as much experience as them. And, just taking that in, that I can be there someday if I really want to. And if I, strive for that dream and really work, put all my dedication, and I can be there. So I think really working on that confidence and, building that up really helps me a lot. It helps me be a smoother driver and all of that. So I think most racers can say that confidence is one of the struggles. I
Mhm.
know, I'm sure every racer has that you've talked to even has had confidence, issues. And I wouldn't necessarily it's an issue. It's just it's hard, seeing
Mhm.
drivers that are better than you, and it's really hard to take that in because you're going to get down on yourself. You want to be on that level, but you want it now, but it takes time. It really does.
Yeah, and you don't want to compare yourself to other people either, Kelly, because everybody's different. And I love what you said about is, if you go home and you've had fun that night, it's been a successful night. You know, everybody that I talk, pretty much everybody I talk to wants to be a NASCAR driver or World of Outlaw driver or
Yeah.
whatever the series is, NHRA. And we know that's just not possible
Right.
because there's way more of you than there are spots to
Right.
do all those things.
Right.
But there's nothing, nobody can take away what you do on the weekends and the family you've made. Like you said, I always say there's nothing better than the race family. And
Right.
and so don't get down on yourself, as long as you are having fun and it's something you and your husband enjoy doing together, you've already won.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
we
sure.
definitely, we have a whiteboard in our trailer, and our number one goal, before the season even starts, we sit down and we ask each other, what are our goals for this year? And our number one goal is to always have fun. I think that's a really big thing in racing. And it's a goal that it seems you can always achieve every night. And
Mhm.
I think having fun means a lot. It helps you build relationships. So
Yeah,
that's as long
yeah,
as we're
for
having
sure.
fun, we're golden.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Have you had, I'm sure you have had a proudest moment. What's been your proudest moment?
I we would rent out Thunder Hill. I think it was 2 years ago. We rented it out a couple times. Might even been last year. I'm not really for sure. The years go by so fast. I I really wanted to work on, speed. And so when we rented out Thunder Hill, it was just me. It was just me and my husband. No one was watching us, and I think that was really good because when you get on the track and you see all those people watching you, it gets nerve-wracking. Like, the adrenaline is huge, and it's so much different when you have no one watching you because I'm not afraid to make mistakes. And we are human. We're all going to make mistakes no matter if there's people in the stands or not. But I went out there and I just told my husband, I'm going to try some things. And so I did. And I was actually, running the top. I had my car dialed in, and, we watched it over on GoPro. And, I was right up on the berm, and I was super proud of myself because for the longest time, I had been scared to be up there. I was super scared to be up by the wall. I couldn't do it. I wanted to be on the bottom. And at Thunder Hill, the top is always fast. Most of the time you want to be on the top. So just being there and, excelling like the speed, getting that down, but also getting, your awareness down, like how close to the wall actually am I? And I definitely improved that day on that. I'm not as scared of the wall anymore. I can be up there, I can race up there. So now that I went out there, I'm very proud of that moment because I, conquered some of my fears of being close to the wall, which racing comes with a lot of fears. So
Yeah,
I'm really glad I could, accomplish that, and, I can be up by the wall now. So,
yeah. Well, and you're not Kyle Larson, Kelly. I hate to tell
right.
you, but who is, right?
Right, right.
Right.
And,
So
and
my
we go to a lot of, bigger races. Like my husband's been to Knoxville. The High Limit Series actually comes to Menominee. This will be the second year. So watching, all of those drivers, they all have a different way of driving. Like, none of them drive the same. None of them have the car set up the same. So it's really cool to, go in the pits and see what they have set up, what's different from each of their cars, because looking at that is, it helps you a lot. They have a lot bigger motors, way more expensive cars, but just seeing, what's different between theirs, can definitely help us too. Just looking at that and, thinking, brainstorming what we could do to help us. So,
so when High Limit comes to Menominee, I want you to go and I want you to go find Lori Cutter and
okay.
I'll send you her information. She works for Racers for Christ, I think it's called. Anyway,
Okay.
she's like the chaplain person,
Okay.
and her husband works on the safety crew, and so they travel with High Limit, which
Okay.
is
That's awesome.
really cool. She's living, well, they both are. He's a retired Delta pilot,
Okay.
but she especially is living her best life because she's a racer through and through as far as like loving racing. And I want you to find her. She'll be easy to find because there's not a lot of women in the pits, and
Right.
she'll have her racers. I'm pretty sure it's Racers for Christ. I don't have my thing in front of me, but anyway, she'll do the prayer and everything, so you'll know. And tell her that you were on the show because she's a wonderful person, and you'll love getting to know her and talk to her. So,
Yeah, I'll definitely be on the lookout for her. I'm at Red Cedar a lot, and we're definitely going to be there when High Limit's there. But it's so cool how, the world is so small. It's so
mhm,
big, yet it's so small because, someone in Menominee. Like, that's super cool. And I love that, we have those connections. That's super
yeah,
nice.
yeah, we really do. So, we've already discussed that having a perfect night is rare. Things happen. We have bad nights. How do you handle that when
It can be really hard, depending on how bad the night is. We raced at Red Cedar for the first time ever that UMSS has ever been there last year, and my husband was leading pretty much all of the laps. He was in the lead, and he had lost the lead on like the last lap. So, and that was at his home track. We're from Menominee, Wisconsin, so that would have been really cool to be in victory lane in front of all of our hometown people. That would have meant the world to us, but it wasn't meant to be that night, and looking back, it was really hard. He got really down on himself, and we just, we went to the trailer, we went home that night, and what could we have done better? And we're always watching GoPro videos. What could we have done better in this moment? And that really helps us improve. I mean, bad nights can mean extremely bad. Like, cars tipped over, like cars wrecked. Obviously, we go step by step in that situation. We look over the car, what's fixable, what's not, and we just hope that we don't have a race the next day, depending on how bad it is. Most of the time, we have a more than one race in a weekend, so really hoping that it's not too bad and we can fix it before the next day. But I think, helping those in those bad moments, just being confident, we're going to get through it and we're going to
mhm,
fix it and we're going to be back, better than ever. Like,
right.
really just, staying confident and, you know, keeping that, happy moment. Hey, did we have fun? Yeah, we had fun. So it wasn't a bad night. Like,
Mhm,
really just, taking it all in and we're going to fix it. It's going to be fine.
right.
And, not dwelling on it because things do happen. They happen in micro sprints, they happen in carts, they happen, in every series. They happen in NASCAR too. So it's things happen and you get through it. You just got to stay, upbeat about it and not dwell on it.
Well, and everybody has issues, even in
Yes.
life, even if you're not in racing. So
Yes.
that's just how life goes. So,
Yes.
how has racing changed you as a person? Actually,
Um,
going and being a fan is one thing, but now actually being involved, how has it changed you?
I think it's changed me a lot. It's definitely changed my perspective of racing. I think it's, you know, I don't really think there's a word for it. From being a fan, I didn't realize what all goes on. I would go in the pits, but it doesn't mean I knew what everything was happening, like what was going on, what they were doing. It definitely changed my perspective on it. I would say that it changed, that's what it changed most. Being in the pits, actually having a car is a lot different than just being in the pits, walking around and looking at other cars and waiting for them to go out. It's a lot different. And I think if I could bring everyone to my pit and take them to a night of racing and show them what it's like to be in the pits with a car, working on the car, and having someone out there that that you're cheering for, I think they would be blown away. It's
Mhm.
so different and it's changed me for the better as a person. I mean, I feel like I've gotten a lot more open with people. I try to be like, I'm being nicer, being more understanding. You don't know what's going on inside, that person right now, like what just happened in that car. Like, you really don't know. And
Mm-mm.
trying to, walk around, you wave, you smile, you say hi, like you it's changed me all around.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say I was like a bad person before, I began racing, but it's just changed me altogether. It's made me realize a lot of things, and definitely my work ethic too. You got to work. You don't win races at the track. You win races in the shop. That's where you win races, because we are always doing something in the shop. There's never a time that we're not. And that's where you win races right there. So changing the work ethic and knowing how things actually work has changed everything for me.
Yeah, for sure. So sprint car racing base typically doesn't have near as many women involved. So you look at World of Outlaws High Limits, we don't see any women driving, do we?
No.
But we know that there's way more little girls getting started and women
Mhm.
like you getting started. So how have you been? Of course, it helps that your husband raced. Have you been accepted like where you race? Like they're not looking at you like, women don't belong in sprint car racing. What's been your experience?
Yeah, so it's been actually really easy for me because I actually race with the women in micros. There's two other girls that race. I think one just quit. She's got college and life and all that, so totally understandable. But it was actually really nice to have another girl racing right next to me, and she was actually pitted right there. So conversing with her, and that really helped me. I was definitely accepted. Now, if I were to go, and hop in a sprint car, I don't think I would feel as accepted, just because there's not many women that drive. I mean, just
Mhm.
in general too. I think that goes for, NASCAR, anything. But having Landry there right next to me and racing at the same level as me helped me a lot, because I could ask her questions and I didn't feel like I was the only one out there.
Yeah.
And that, I think that also really helped other people, like the guys, not judge as much, because there was already another girl there. So and more girls are getting into racing. It's becoming more and more popular, which is good. We want more racers. So I definitely think that judging, girls that are in motorsports and being in a male dominant sport, I think that's definitely starting to go away. I know it used to be really male dominant, years ago, but more and more girls are coming into it, which is super good. So I don't really call it a male dominant field anymore. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of guys, but there's also a lot of girls coming into it,
Yeah.
and they have a lot of talent, and I think it's realizing that even though we're a girl and we're in a male dominant sport, we have a lot of talent as well. Almost, maybe we even have more talent than them. Women are always right. So so
I
I got
love
to keep
that.
that in
Women are
mind
always
too.
right. Excuse me. So I was going to ask you, what message did you want young girls to hear? But I think you just said it. Women are always right.
Yes, and definitely a heartfelt message, for all of the girls is, strive for that dream. If you want to become a race car driver, do it. And, I would help anyone out any day. If we have parts in the trailer that they need, like, we want more racers. So we would help them out. Any girl driver can reach out to me. I would love to let them know, my experience and my story. And even though they're a girl, do it. I don't think they're going to regret it. Racing is super fun, good adrenaline rush, and it's definitely an awesome sport. Racing family is unbelievable, and you will have that family forever. We've met some really amazing people racing that we wouldn't have met if we weren't
Right.
racing. Like, it's astronomical. It's amazing to see, other people's stories, and and it's really cool being in this pits sprint car racing with my husband, because the Tatnells, Garrett Tatnell, Brooke Tatnell, they come in our pit a lot, and I love hearing Brooke's story, how he started out and his family story. I absolutely love it, because he has a big story and his story is very cool, and their family is also super cool. And
Yeah.
I think racing is also a super last name sport. So really understanding that even though their last name is Tatnell, and, Brooke is from Australia and he raced there, you know, that does not mean anything. His last name doesn't define him. They're super amazing people, and a lot of people think different. So getting to know people actually will, it benefits everything. Getting to know them deep down and not just, passing by them and saying hi. Actually knowing their story and knowing who
Yeah,
they are helps everything, and that's what gains family, and that's what's amazing,
exactly.
because everyone has so many different stories and so many different perspectives that it really takes, you take it all in. It really takes a toll on you, and you really realize a lot of things. So I really don't think I could be who I am today without the racing family.
Yeah, I 100%. I'm there with you for sure. So, Kelly, do you have marketing partners that help you along the way? Because it is an expensive sport.
It really is. We have quite a few sponsors actually, and I would love to shout them out. We could not do what we do without them. They, whether it's little or big, they help us out tremendously. And having those sponsors and having those partners, it's amazing. They love racing. They come watch us. They always check up on us. They comment on our social medias, and they always come in the pits to say hi. And it's super amazing to see how many people actually like racing. And I've never met anyone that goes to a race and says I didn't like it. So it's definitely cool to see, and having all these partners get on board with us every year. And most of our sponsors have been with us since we started K&K Racing, which is super cool to see that they follow us that far.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to share some of them, or are you
Yeah,
afraid you'll
so
forget?
I might forget a few, but just know that if you are with us, you're not actually forgotten. We appreciate everything that they do for us. Cedar Creek or Iron Creek Concrete, Creekside Custom Egg, King Services, Maintain Painting, Cedar Falls Heating and Cooling, Wild Badger. I might have to take a look at one of my cars here.
Okay.
CR Shreds, Reeks Black Angus, TL Sins Plumbing, More to Do Farms. We have a really nice fuel sponsor. His name's Bulldog. That helps us out a lot. Methanol is not cheap at all. Lindstrom Equipment. I think that's the majority of them. If I did miss any, I sincerely apologize, but we have a lot, and it's super good to have that problem that you have so many that you need to look back and see who you all have. We definitely, don't forget them. Oh, I forgot, Quality Construction, Quality Auto Body. They've done a lot, painting for us. Powder Plus, done a lot for our body panels, and that's super nice. They not only, give us money, but, parts, painting, that's all super expensive too. And it really means a lot to have all these sponsors on board with us.
Yeah. Now, one of your sponsors, I think, was who introduced us.
Yes, Freedom Race Lifts. Oh my gosh. I completely forgot. I'm trying to look at my cars and, see, but my cars are all behind me and they're all positioned in, different ways that I can't see all of them. Freedom Race Lifts, super big help for us. Astronomical. They keep us safe in the shop, at the track. It's amazing. And it's super cool to see that they were at the Red Cedar Car Show 3 years ago when we were first starting out, and we were their first sprint car on one of their lifts. And that's really amazing. And I'm glad that we got to start that, that they've helped us out a lot, and they have a lot of safety features on their lift that not many others do. And I think they're doing great. It's really amazing to see someone that loves racing that much, and they not only do dirt car racing, they side by sides and full vehicle lifts, so they do a lot. And seeing, we been to car shows with them, and Josh is just super an amazing person. He really does a lot. He helps us out a lot. He's always willing, if something's wrong, he's willing to make it right. And we haven't had a lot wrong, but some things do go wrong, when they're first coming out. They got to make tweaks here and there, and he's been super amazing through all of that. And so I'm super glad to have them and have a lift that's safe, because, I've heard a lot of horror stories, of people being under lifts, and it hasn't turned out so good for them. And so I'm really happy to, expose them and, get them out more. And we've had a lot of people come up to the track and see our lift, and we got to tell them all about it. And, I really think that's helped them as well. More people buying from them. And I really, I tell everyone when they are talking about it because, they ask the price, and the price is, it's an eye popper. Like, obviously, there's a lot of expensive things, and some things are just like, wow. But I tell them, you get what you pay for. And
Hmm.
their price may be high, but you're going to get this one of the safest lifts in the country. And
Yeah.
I would rather pay way more for my lift and be super safe than
Yeah.
pay, get a cheaper one and have a freak accident and
Yeah.
something really bad happens. And so I always tell everyone, you get what you pay for. And I really think that opens them up about it. They're
Mhm.
not so, scared of the price. They think about that, like, oh yeah, you are right. You really do get what you pay for. And it's super cool that Freedom Race Lifts is, they're in Wisconsin most of the time, Lake City, Minnesota. So they're not far, which is super nice, being local. They're only an hour and a half from us. So that's super cool. And, seeing all the jacks that they get, the jack is super cool. We can't wait to get one of those. But it's super amazing to go there and see what all he has in production and how he does everything. Like,
Mhm.
that was an eye opener for me because yeah, I have a lift in my shop here, but I want to know like how it built. How did you build this? Like, how did you come up with this? And I think, if anyone gets a chance to see Josh, definitely ask him about his story because his story
Yeah.
is super cool and how he got to start out, and he's doing amazing and it's really taking off, and I love
Yeah.
to see that because we need safety. That's, our number one priority is safety, and we really really preach that, to
Yeah.
anyone. So having that lift available to us is just amazing.
Yeah. And I agree, you get what you pay for, but the other side of that is you can go to a tool store, and I'm not going to name the famous tool store that everybody goes to get cheap tools, but do they last? And do you want to put your car up on something from there? No, because there's nothing better than knowing when you put your sprint car or your full size car or whatever you're going to put on one of his lifts. There's no better reassurance to know that it's made differently,
Mm-hmm.
because safety is what started that company. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I've talked to Josh a couple times, and the one of the first things he talks about is how safe they are. And so, like you said, in racing, there's never too much safety. So, yeah, that's cool, and it's important to spend your
Yes.
money there instead of some other
Yes.
places, and it's going to last a long time.
Yes. Yes. We've had ours since the beginning, when they first came to Red Cedar, and we love it. We still use it. It's still good as new. And,
Yeah.
there's a lot of, safety pins and all of that. So, you can definitely prove that it's super safe,
Yeah.
and we love it. It helps us in the shop. It helps us not break our back by bending down. And, because, racing is also really physically demanding.
It is.
A lot
Yeah.
of people don't realize that either, but it's very physically demanding. So, not bending down and, making it easier for us it's huge.
Right. So, Kelly, as we wrap up, I want you to share, how can we follow you? Are you on social media? What is it? And do you put your race schedule on there? How do you use social media?
Yeah, so you can follow K&K Racing on Facebook. It's a K and then the and sign and then a K and then racing. We post almost every day on there, what we're doing in the shop, what our schedule is, cancellations. We were supposed to be racing today at Cedar Lake, but unfortunately, Mother Nature hates racing. So we didn't get to go racing today, but we're in the shop, going to be in the shop all day. And so we post a lot of updates on there, and we love to shout out our, sponsors on there as well. So if anyone's looking to get on board with racing as well, let us know. But we also have a TikTok, which is K&K Racing, and we do post a lot on there. And then on our K&K page, we do have our phone numbers and emails on there. So if anyone has any inquiries or any questions, they can reach out to us personally, and we can definitely talk to them. I'd also like to shout out Jim Gurecki. He is a huge help to us. He has helped us get sponsors this year, and he has been our number one fan. But he has been amazing to us, and it's always nice to have that individual that sticks with you and supports you through the long run and actually helps you, reach out to businesses and get you sponsors. Not a lot of people have that, and it's super nice to have that. We could not do it without him. So a special thanks to him and, our family, mom, dad, grandma. We couldn't do it without our family either. Our personal family is better than racing family, even though it's really hard to beat racing family. So, having all of our support means a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. So everybody out there, follow K&K Racing. Kelly, you've been a joy this morning to speak with. The smile on your face, your eyes are lit up, and you were supposed to be racing and you're not, and you're still smiling. So there you go. And sometimes we do feel like Mother Nature hates racing, but I'll just tell you that I think you must have had sunshine yesterday.
Yep, we did.
You sent it to me today. And so
well, that's good. That's good.
I live in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and so it's a beautiful sunny day, and the temperatures are going to be in the mid 60s, and we're looking at 70 in a day or two. And so, I can't wait for that to happen. So thanks for sending the sunshine today. I appreciate it.
No problem. Anytime. Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, so. Kelly, please stay in touch.
Yeah, definitely. We appreciate you and, all the things that you do for women in motorsports. It's super nice to have someone like you that, talks to us and, recognizes us. That's amazing.
Well, I appreciate you said that. Thank you. You have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Start your engines. This is the Women's Motor